the Backrooms. They're kinda pretty spooky scary. It all started with an anonymous internet post, and I love its unsettling aesthetic. So it made me wonder, is this an opportunity for content? So yeah, I did some stuff and I made a thing, and now I'm gonna tell you about all the things that I've done and the stuff that I made. And if you like what you see, you know the deal. Alright, the Backrooms is nothing without its creepy visuals. So I got to start working in 3D game dev, which I haven't really done for quite literally 8 years, but I put together this 2D wallpaper texture in my video editing software.
Huh?
Yes, I know, I'm insane, but it's the program that I work best in, so don't go writing any hate comments. I get enough of those as it is. But yeah, this 2D texture goes on a big 3D rectangular prism, and just like that, we have a wall. Now, I'm what you might call a hobbyist game developer, which means I can control each and every part of my games. I also have this thing called free will. Free will, he did nothing wrong. What I'm getting at is that I can just replace these wall textures with whatever I want. These are the joys of game dev on YouTube. I can show my goblin of a cat to the world for billions, maybe even millions of people to see. I found the textures for the floor and ceiling on OpenGameArt, thank you for your service, and they also had these wonderful normal maps. What these do is that instead of colouring an object, it makes light reflect off it in a more detailed and interesting way, without me really having to do much else. Except I gotta, figure out how the lighting actually works in my game engine, because I haven't done that before. In both 2D and 3D video games, lighting has a big impact on mood and vibe, so I really gave it my best shot to try and replicate the spookiness of the Backrooms. Not exactly replicating its exact visuals, but at least getting in the ballpark of spooky. Okay, enough with the finger quotes, get 'em out of here. This really just took a lot of tinkering and changing some settings until I got it to a point that I was happy with. But another silly thing is that the ceiling lights aren't actually attached to the ceiling, they're just floating emissive rectangles. They also tend to flicker in this weird way, which I definitely coded it to do that, and it isn't just a fortunate bug that helps to, build the atmosphere of my world. Yep. I can also control the intensity and colour of the fog. It's pretty fun to play with, but I don't know how much use I'd get out of having pink backrooms. Pink backrooms? Getting the right atmosphere for my game meant I was also using a bunch of different camera effects, which, as you can see, each one kinda gets layered on top of one another and adds something new to how the game is rendered. Balancing all of these effects was definitely another challenge for me, as it was something that I haven't really touched before. Because of that, I went through a lot of different iterations for the visuals. I was using this much darker version for quite a long time, which I think is conventionally pretty spooky scary, but then looking back at some of the reference images of the actual backrooms, the ones that exist in real life, it really isn't that dark. I think that's one of the reasons why I love the concept of the backroom so much, because it's more eerie and otherworldly than just another horror concept. I don't know how this happened, but at some point all of the visual effects in my game got deleted, which at first I thought was moderately funny, but then it also kinda got liminal. Like, it gives it a whole different paranormal vibe to everything. I'm already a very fearful person, so both of these versions get me quaking in my boots. I'm always worried about what's gonna be behind a corner. Hello? Hi, little guy, little fella. Okay. I made an album, by the way, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think these walls are kind of boring. They don't really have anything on them apart from, gasp, secret goobers. I thought another point of interest for the player to come across would be some disturbing paintings. First, I just tested to see if they were spawning correctly using this placeholder sprite, a thumbnail image which appeared in my previous video with my very funny recurring editing shtick. I hope this bit is still holding up some comedic value. But obviously, we can't just plaster a single image everywhere, so I put on some tunes and went to town on making some creepy paintings to put in these frames. That's when I realised that I'm not much of an artist, but much like Gru and his minions, I can outsource work to more competent organisms. Goobers, assemble. I put out this YouTube short, a bit of a cry for help, asking the community to submit your own unsettling paintings, and I received some fantastically spooky artworks. Thank you to everyone who contributed, because it makes the game feel way more personalised and definitely more interesting to explore. And on top of that, the quality of some of these entries are truly amazing. You done outdid yourselves here. We got some creepy ones, we got some silly ones, all round, very cool. Room generation is next, which means I gotta start using my mononeural brain. Of course, programming infinite rooms is terrifying, but something that's probably a bit scarier is that one day I'm gonna run out of ways to smoothly transition into today's video sponsor. Odoo is the all-in-one business management platform that takes every scatter tool you're using right now and folds them into one clean, organized ecosystem. If you've ever felt like your business is being run across 12 tabs, 3 apps, and an overworked gooblet, Odoo fixes that. Their CRM app shows every potential customer as a card in the Kanban view. Name, priority, next steps, all right there just at a single glance. Moving a deal through your pipeline is literally as simple as dragging it from one stage to the next. It feels like organizing a bunch of money-making sticky notes. Because that's exactly what it is. Click on any lead and you'll get all the crucial information: past emails, internal notes, scheduled activities, documents, etc., etc. You can schedule calls, send emails, and book meetings directly into Odoo's calendar without ever leaving the app. And even more, you can automate these follow-up actions as you see fit, saving you heaps of time. You can also analyze people's sales and performance through these helpfully snazzy graphs. Odoo's first app is free for life for unlimited users. Start with CRM, get organized, and expand whenever you're ready. Thank you for sponsoring today's video, and check out Odoo using the link in the description. The room generation in this game was surprisingly simple, but the mechanism behind it is fairly interesting, so let me yap for a bit. I wrote an algorithm to generate the rooms in a way that you can explore each and every part of the map, and that there aren't any sections completely blocked off or closed in. So to do this, each square on this board is a cell. It starts completely closed off with walls on all 4 sides. Now the code here has already started, because these green cells are joined together, which means they're already part of the map. The red cells on the outside are rooms that are still closed off, and these are the cells which are candidates for where the algorithm will expand out to. So we randomly select one of our green cells and one of its neighbouring red cells, and then to join these 2 rooms together, we break the wall in between them. By repeating this system and knocking down these walls, our map eventually grows into something where every room can be visited, even if it's a little bit maze-like to get there. The entire layout turns out to be pretty natural and unpredictable, which is great for the backrooms because it shouldn't feel too normal. This method is pretty good as it is, but to make it that bit more interesting, the algorithm will go through all of the walls and delete some of them after generating the rooms. This makes it so we have some more open spaces and weirdly shaped rooms, which I think ties into the whole reality isn't real and nothing makes sense idea. And that's kind of it for room generation. It works well enough, and even though it'd be cool to have really really long corridors or angled or even curved rooms, it does the job. And obviously, seeing this generate over and over and over in real time is super cool. Now, I haven't done much 3D modeling in my day, but I know that Blender is the program that I should have used. Instead, I flopped around in my game engine for way too long, aimlessly mushing together cubes and spheres. I'm fairly sure this tool is actually made for environmental modeling rather than the hyper-realistic, ultra-detailed character models that I managed to Frankenstein at 3 in the morning. But oh well, call me a contrarian the way I be GOOBIN. I did still have a lot of fun attempting to model these squishy guys, and I even made a few different types for some variety. Next, I made some different sets of eyes to give them a bit more personality. I was pretty happy with how these turned out, but they are just ominously standing there at the moment, so we actually got to make them do something. Firstly, the goobers rotate towards the player to look at them. Very scary. I made these rotations kinda noisy, a bit unpredictable. Why is bro vibrating? Next, they started moving towards the player, but this movement seemed way too clean and normal for a creature as silly as the gooblet. And like, this movement without proper animations to it just looks very weird. So I added more noise and randomness to their position when they walk, so they really do just become a bit of a glitchy mess. Now, you might be watching this video, you are watching this video, but you might also be thinking that these goobers should either be some kind of enemy or backroomsy type of otherworldly creature, and you're completely right. But I guess what I was going for with this quote-unquote game was actually more of a walking simulator, and not necessarily something with a set goal for the player to complete or have any lose conditions. I find this concept pretty interesting, and since I haven't really made something like that before, I thought now would be a goob opportunity to do it. Because I have many diagnoses, I also added a small chance for the goober antennas to be stuck coming out of the wall. Ooh, environmental world building. Ooh, I wonder how this is happening. And just like the goobers they were, or once are still attached to, they will shake and wiggle aggressively every now and then. Again, not really a jump scare, but another fun addition to the game to give it some character. The final environmental set piece are these TVs. Not entirely sure what drew me to making them, but the modelling was a fair bit easier compared to the goobers because the TVs are just a box. And then the texture within the screen is my infamous NOR signal image with a bunch of distortions added to it. I created 10 slightly different versions and they just loop randomly on the screen, creating this cool uncanny staticky effect. This makes me think that other furniture or creatures or objects could help flesh out the game a bit more and build a bit of a story. If you have any ideas about this, definitely do not comment them. Okay, sorry, that was just a massive prank that I just pulled on you right now. Kind of embarrassing for you, but you actually can leave a comment if you want to, it's okay. Now before I talk about how you can play this walking sim for yourself, something really interesting in game design is not game design, because it's audio design. Firstly, background music. We have the piano, a group of stringed instruments, and this thing called a pad. But these three on their own are a little plain, so we can add some reverb which makes it sound like it's being played in a big cave. I also added a flanger and chorus, which I don't know exactly what they're doing, but it sounds kinda funky. So with these instruments and effects, we have an ambient, undiscernible background track. In the game, with some code, I tied its volume to a sine wave, so it gradually gets louder and quieter across time. And it also has some periods of random noisy fluctuations to make it that bit more creepy. Next, I wanted to create some sound effects like the ones that you get when you enter a Minecraft cave. I did make these by recording myself whistling into my microphone, and so we end up with something like this. I made 8 versions of these sound files which gets layered on top of the base ambient audio, but I do make sure that there's enough time in between them, at least 30 seconds, because otherwise it'd get pretty distracting, with them just repeating over and over and over and over and over. The final layer is staticky, mechanical, more diegetic kind of things. I just recorded myself tapping on my desk, and combined this with some white noise and other Foley instruments. It sounds pretty bizarre, and the audio doesn't really describe anything in particular, but I feel like hearing it in the game puts you at least a little bit on edge. I've most certainly overcomplicated this music system and probably everything else in this project, but I'm really happy with the final result. So yeah, I'll post the game link in the description in a few days when I finish everything up. But thank you for watching the video, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your rest of